Badass business owners, welcome to another episode of the Local Small Business Coach Podcast, where each episode we work on getting you to $100,000 in take-home pay. So if you're all ready to boost your profits, increase your sales, improve your processes, and develop stronger teams so you can stop living job to job, then let's dive in. Hey, badass business owners. Welcome back to the Local Small Business Coach Podcast. All right. I want to share something with you today that it just really got under my skin for some reason. And actually, I heard this a few days ago and I thought, I kind of had my little ranting moment in my head. And then the longer the week went on, I realized that this was still irritating me. And when I thought about what I was going to talk about today, I realized that this has been eating at me. So I'm going to share my thoughts with you guys. So I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm very open about the fact that I am a podcast junkie. I love listening to podcasts. I listen to all types of podcasts. I listen to all types of business podcasts, and there's some really good ones out there. And I try to listen to as many podcasts that are talking to you, the local business owner, as much as I can. Some it's hard to find because the titles are weird. It doesn't necessarily jump out that that's what it's about. But then I also see where people recommend them and I go listen to them and anything else. So anyways, so I was listening to this one podcast and they kind of did their favorite podcasts that they like to listen to. And a few of them I had never heard before. So I started listening. So anyways, one of the ones, the first couple episodes I heard from this person, I was like, I kind of like what they have to say. But there was a little bit of an anger tinge to it, I guess, but no big deal. Whatever, he can rant. But then one of the podcast episodes that he had something to say that basically employees suck. So, and the title says employees suck. And I'm like, okay, it's a clickbait. He's going to come on. He's going to talk about the fact that, sometimes employees suck, but for the most part, blah, blah, blah. Nope. This whole entire podcast was about how employees suck. Employees are terrible, and how you shouldn't have to have employees, but you have to have employees, but all employees suck. All employees suck across the board. And I thought, one, I was shocked because I'm thinking, wow, there's no hope whatsoever in this episode for anybody. If you're listening to it and you have employees, you walk away feeling as though, well, that's the way it is. All employees suck. It's never going to get any better. And I'm like, wow, what a terrible message to have out there. And true, the second part of it was that my next thought was, that's not true. Not all employees suck. Are there employees that suck? Yeah, there's some sucky employees. There's sucky bosses. There's sucky all kinds of things that are bad. But that doesn't necessarily mean that all employees suck. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I hope to God that anybody that listens to this episode listens to other podcasts as well. But anyways, so after going through that and that just hitting at me, one of the things I realized I need to come on here and say that basically if your employees suck, it might be your fault. And just roll with me for a minute because some of you guys have employees that suck and you're like, what do you mean it's my fault? Okay, good. I'm glad I got under your skin. So let's talk about this for a minute, okay? This is what I want to talk about because employees are a necessary evil. First off, absolutely, employees are a necessary evil if you want to grow and scale your business. But some people should just not be in charge of people. So there are people that they know their skill sets, they have horrible people skills, and they just should not manage people. But what's funny is some of them still end up being local business owners who, by the way, work with the local community, which, by the way, are people. Yes. So no matter what, you have to work with people. And it's funny when I hear a local business owner who has no employees who still talks about how people suck, and yet they continue to service the public and they wonder why their business doesn't grow. That's part of it. The only reason people put up with their butts is because they're good at what they do. And they always wonder why that business is never going to grow. Well, it's not going to grow for two reasons. One is your word of mouth and the reputation you're building is not one of Mr. or Mrs. Friendly. But on top of that, you could never have employees if you wanted to because none of them would ever last. Got that off of my chest. Now, before I dive in, what I want to do is I want to talk about some of the ways that employees suck and how you can work with that. But first, let me do my quote. Okay, I want to do my quote for the week. And that is this: always treat your employees exactly as you want them to treat your best customers. And that's by Stephen Covey. Always treat your employees exactly as you want them to treat your best customers. And that's going to be important, especially when I get to the later half of the reasons I think employees suck. Okay? Because here's the thing. I am very pro-employee. Now, have employees given me massive amounts of headaches through the years? Yes. I've been in charge of thousands of people. I've had teams as small as, one or two, all the way up to thousands. And you know what? There's always going to be people that just drive you absolutely batty. And there's people you're going to see coming towards you. You just want to go, oh gosh, do I have to have this conversation? You know what? Have you ever had one of those employees that are horrible, they drive you nuts, but they're not bad enough to fire? Like they don't do anything that you can't see. When I worked for corporate America, it was much more difficult for us to fire someone because we had to follow all the different things that went on, and we had to have consistency. Just because someone got under our skin, we couldn't just fire them. Even in right to work states, it didn't matter because of the way that we're a company across multiple states. But for folks like yourselves, for most of you, you don't have to put up with an employee that is just a really bad attitude, crappy, that you just don't jive with. It just doesn't work. You can sit down and cross from them. Now, I'm not just saying just up and let them go for no reason, but it's okay to say, hey, you know what? I just don't think that we're driving together here, and I just don't think that you're happy. I'm not happy. You know what? We need to try to figure out what's going on here so that we can either make this relationship work or we can't. There's ways that you can have some of those dialogues, and that might be different from some of you, and some of you guys have more stringent states than others, and you can work through that, or we can work through that, whatever the case may be. But here's the thing. First off, let me step back here because I know I'm rattling. I'm kind of giving you diarrhea of the mouth. I'm just throwing out whatever's popping into my head. So here's the thing. First off, if your employees suck typically for one of several reasons. One, you hired the wrong person. You failed to train them. You fail to communicate with them, and finally, you don't treat them well. Those are primary reasons. Not all of them, but most of them will fall. I would say 80 to 90% of the reasons employees suck fall into those reasons. Now, could it also be that they're just a miserable human being? Absolutely. Which means you might have hired them wrong, right? Somewhere in one of those buckets they would have probably fallen into. So yes, people suck for a reason. Not everybody sucks, not employees suck, but if you've got a sucky employee, there's probably a reason. And by the way, it could be something as simple as there's something to do with them at home. There could be something going on, but more on that here shortly. First off, we need to cover one thing that you've got to make sure you understand. Nobody is ever going to love your business the way you love your business. Nobody is going to care about your business the way that you care about your business. It's your baby. It is something that you are passionate about, that you hold very dear and close to your heart. Now, with that said, that does not mean that you can't find employees that can care pretty darn close, people that can buy into your vision, people that feel like they're part of a team, part of your family. You can find employees that can do that. And there's several of you guys that listen to this podcast that have reached out to me that tell me this. I know I've had it personally, but I've also heard it from you guys that, you know what, your team is everything and that they would die for you. And I'm telling you, there is no greater feeling in the world than when you know that people on your team are so passionate about your business, they run a close second to you. And I want that for every single one of you. But what I don't want is for you to have a feeling that your employees suck. So let's kind of take a step back and let's take a look at, I think I've got 5 areas here of why your employees might suck. First off, 1, are you hiring them right? This is probably by far the single biggest problem that occurs is we tend to hire because we're in desperate need of people. So if they can fog up a mirror, we hire them. And that's the problem. You can't just hire someone just because you're desperate and they happen to apply or they happen to show up. You need to take the time to find the right people, because if you don't take the time to find the right people, you're playing the lottery. You might accidentally stumble across one of the greatest people you've ever had work for you, but more times than not, you're going to find average to mediocre people and some of those people that just plain ass suck. And that's part of the problem is you've got to make sure that you have a great hiring plan and that you're looking forward. You should always have a mentality of always be hiring. Even if you're not looking for someone right now, if you come across somebody who would make a great addition to your team, go ahead and hire them. If you hire a great employee, what are they going to do for you? They're going to raise everybody else up. They're going to bring you more customers or clients. Trust me, they'll start paying for themselves relatively quickly. And it allows you to be able to go back and make sure that if you do have one of those employees that suck, you don't have to have the feeling of holding on to them because you don't have a replacement for them, which, by the way, is one of the problems that happen is some of you guys hold on to these sucky employees because you don't want to have to replace them. So if you're always looking for the right people, if you're always hiring, guess what? You never have that hanging over you that you've got to hold on to poor employees because you don't have somebody to replace them. So you should always be looking for people. And by the way, when you're trying to hire the right person and you sit across from them, make sure you're actually interviewing them and listen to what they're saying. Now, here's the key thing. People can say the right stuff. People know what they should say. Watch their body language. Look into their eyes. Do they mean what it is that they're saying? Or are they simply blowing smoke up your butt because they know exactly what to say? I'm sure some of you guys have hired people like that. You're like, oh my gosh, in the interview, they were saying everything right. They were so great. You know, they were telling me how great customers are and how they should be treated like this, but yet they have the worst customer service. Yeah, they know what to say. It's your job to be able to read through that. You need to listen to your gut and listen to your BS meter. I'm sure almost all of you guys have gotten pretty good through the years of knowing when someone is blowing smoke and that they're giving you a line of BS. You know, it could be something as simple as, are they irritated every time that maybe you're interrupted during the interview? Are they irritated that's happening? Well, guess what? If they're irritated by it being interrupted during your interview, they're going to have a hard time when they're interrupted out in the field because they're going to be interrupted by a client, a customer's, their kids, by another service person, whatever. And they've got to just smile and keep moving forward and get the job done. You know, here's one that cracks me up. Sometimes I'll come across somebody's employee and they have zero personality. And I'm thinking to myself, when they hired this person, did they really have a personality during that interview? I went to a fast food place, for example, the other day, and the person behind the register had zero personality. Just would look at you, wouldn't talk, wouldn't make eye contact, wouldn't crack a smile, trying to make a joke, thinking maybe she's nervous. Zero personality. And then when I was sitting, I was kind of watching just because I wanted to see, did it ever come out? Was it between me? No, this person, the entire time I was there, had zero personality, zero connection with anybody, not even for her fellow coworkers, not the clients. And I thought to myself, you know, when they did the interview, was there another person that showed up? Or that at some point there had to be very little personality during that interview? And what made them think that she'd be a great addition to their team? Maybe they thought they were giving her a shot. Maybe she was shy. They thought they would pull it out. I don't know. That could be the case. But here's the thing. When you're hiring somebody, a lot of times you can get to their true character while you're there. So you need to pay attention. So one, you got to hire people right. The next thing you need to do is you need to train them. Oh my gosh. One, you need to have an onboarding process. Quit throwing them to the wolves. Just because you hire them doesn't make them an expert in your business. They might understand what you do, but they probably do not understand how you want your business to run. You need to have some sort of onboarding process. This is where you're going to teach them how to do the job, what your expectations are of the job, what your expectations are of them as one of your employees. You need to make sure that they fully are given all the tools necessary for them to be successful with your business. Because here's the problem is, if they suck later on, you need to look in the mirror and ask yourself, is this something that you caused because you failed to train them? You failed to give them the expectations of what you expected out of them. And that's a huge part where I think a lot of people drop the ball is they hire a good person, but then they onboard them horribly. They fail to communicate to them what things need. And especially if somebody's got previous experience doing what it is, they're going to bring all their bad habits and the things that they were taught by somebody else to you. And if you don't like those, and you never told them to do it your way, then guess what? You can't get mad at them for doing it the way that they already know. So that doesn't make them sucky employees. It makes you a sucky trainer. And it means that you need to step back and you need to give them. And by the way, this onboarding and the training doesn't end at the time you hire them. You need to have an ongoing process for training your employees. You should, at minimum, every quarter be teaching people something. Take a piece of your business, teach them something. People love to learn. People love to grow. And if you want them to grow, there's always superstars who are going to be hungry, that are going to be go-getters. They're going to go seek out what they need. And a lot of times, small business owners are like that naturally. You're hungry, you're aggressive, and you'll go learn anything. You expect your employees to be like that. You need to understand you're one of a small percentage of people. There might be 10, 20% of the population that is hungry like that wants to learn. So you have to understand most of your employees aren't like you. They're not going to be uber aggressive. They're not going to go out and learn. So a lot of times people will say, oh, my employees suck because they're not hungry. They don't want to learn anything. Most people don't. So you can't get mad at them for that. You need to inspire them. You need to teach them yourselves. Don't wait for them to be as hungry as you are to learn how to do things better, to improve, to get better at different things. Most people just aren't wired that way. They need to be led to the water, if you will, to drink. They need to understand that this is a part of their ongoing process to get better. But don't get frustrated that they're not like you, because they're not going to be like you. So not only are they not going to have the passion for your business that you do, they're also not going to have that eagerness, that hunger that you probably do, because most people don't have that. Now, should you go out and try to find those people? Absolutely. That's why you're always going to be hiring, because you're going to be looking for those people out in the world, out in the wild, if you will, and you're going to try to get them to come work for you. But in the meantime, you're going to have a lot of employees that work for you until you have the ability to replace them all that are just not like that. Most people are not wired to be hungry and aggressive and go-getter and whatnot. That's why so many people work for somebody else, is because they like to know, they like that safety net of, this is what I do. I come in, I punch the clock, I do what I do, and then I go home at the end of the night. If you've got those types of employees, you just want to continue to find new people to eventually replace them to grow your business. But don't get frustrated, because that's just the way that they're wired. That's how a lot of people are out there. And I see a lot of that frustration sometimes come through when people say that their employees suck. It's not that they suck. It's just that they've hired mediocre people, and mediocre people are not hungry and aggressive in most cases. Not saying that they can't be, but it's not their nature to be that way. You have to help do it. All right, I talked about this one. The third thing I want to talk about is part of the reason that they might suck is because something might be going on in their life, especially if an employee didn't suck before and all of a sudden they suck now. Something happened. So they're either mad or upset with you, or something to do with your company. Something's bothering them and you need to peel that back and try to find out what that is. But it also could be that something's going on in their family, something's going on at home. Should they drop it, not bring it to work? Absolutely. But you know what? We're human. Most people are going to bring that pain with them, or their mind's going to be distracted, or whatever the case may be. So if something's going on and they've never been like this, it might be worth having the conversation, asking them, hey, is something wrong? Is something going on? I'm not necessarily to say pry into their personal life, but sometimes just that simple question is, hey, I noticed that you're not as bubbly as you usually are, or you're not as aggressive as you normally are, or you're not getting the things done that you normally do. Is something going on? Is there something I can help you with? Just care about them and try to see if you can find out what's going on and what might be causing them to suck, especially if they didn't suck in the beginning, but now they all of a sudden suck. There's a chance that something's going on. It could be something internally within your business, and it could be something personally. You never know until you start asking the question, which kind of leads into the next thing I want to talk about, which is communication. A lot of business, like I said, some of you guys are really great at what it is that you do, but you're horrible at communicating with your employees. And communication is huge. You got to have great communication with your customers. We've talked about that a million times. I'm always talking about how communication is key. You've got to talk to your customers and your clients. Well, guess what? If you have employees, you need to talk to them as well. And by the way, not just talk to them, talk at them, you need to listen to them. You need to make sure that you're hearing what they're saying, because a lot of times they've tried telling us stuff, but we're not listening to what it is. You need to make sure that you are trying to find out what's going on, and just have basic conversation with them. They need to know that you care, and that their opinion matters. I guess that's a good way to look at it, is their opinion matters. You need to find out. We already talked about the part of the communication is you need to make sure that they know the expectations that you have. You need to communicate those expectations. You can't just assume they know what those are. There's a lot of times where I'm talking to a business owner or a manager or leader, whatever the case may be, through the years, and they're telling me, well, these people just don't X, Y, or Z. And I'm like, okay, well, how do they know they're supposed to X, Y, or Z? Well, they should know that. Okay, well, they should know that, but they don't know that. And how were they supposed to know that? And you need to ask yourself the same thing. When you get frustrated with people because they just don't know something, you need to ask yourself, is it because of a lack of communication? Did you explain the not only the how-to, but what you were expecting out of them, the expectations that you had of them? And by the way, if any of your employees fail on anything. Anytime an employee fails, the first thing I want you to do is ask yourself, did you fail them? Because the odds are you failed them because you failed to communicate something. You failed to communicate those expectations. You failed to communicate how it should be done. Once again, it goes under that whole communication bucket. So if somebody happens to be failing, you always want to ask yourself first, how did I fail them? Because if you go, nope, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, there's something else on their end. Now we need to hold them accountable. Now, I don't just mean just say it automatically. There are people that say, I didn't fail them. They know better. Okay, how do they know? Peel it back another layer for me and ask yourself, how do they know that? Why should they know that? Not just because they should absolutely know. You need to be able to point back to, I taught them here, here, and here. This is where they knew it, and everything else. Another part of communication that I think gets missed sometimes is when we fail to tell our employees stuff and it impacts our customers. For example, if, and I'll use a brick and mortar example right here, or anybody that runs any kinds of specials. For example, you might run a special, you might run an ad about something, and you fail to tell the employees that you ran said ad or special or whatever the case may be. So then all of a sudden they're dealing with your customers or clients, and the customer and client's looking at them going, hey, you know what do you mean? This is only supposed to be $10, not $12. And the employee's looking at them going, no, it's $12. And like, oh no, here's an ad. Well, now you've just upset two people because one, your employee is looking competent because they didn't know that you ran an ad for $10. And that customer has gotten frustrated with your employee because the employee didn't know what was going on. So now you've made a bad situation for two people because of a failure to communicate. So it's important that with your communication, part of the reasons our employees suck is because they don't know something was failed to be communicated to them. So make sure that you do that. And poor leadership is the next thing. It kind of all ties it all together. We already talked about the lack of communication, but when I talk about poor leadership, I also mean how you talk to people. There's some of you guys that talk really rude to your employees. There's some of you guys that are wonderful. You talk to them, as you would your sister, your brother, your mother, your father. And really, that's how it is. There is no need for you to be rude. This is a family that you're building. Now, granted, it's a family that you have to help hold accountable for what it is that they do. Don't get me wrong, but it is still your family. It is still your team. And if you think about when you've been on some of the best teams in your entire life, whether it was a sporting team when you were younger or a work-related team, it was because of the family environment. That's what pulled you in. You guys wanted to succeed as a family and make things happen. Now, you also fought and you had issues that you had to hold accountability within any family, but it felt like one. So you need to make sure that how you are communicating with them, you should never, ever, ever be swearing at your employees. You should never be making them feel uncomfortable. Now, uncomfortable because you're pushing them to get stronger and better, that's a different type of uncomfortable. But uncomfortable because of the language you use, the screaming that you use, the innuendos that you use, whatever the case may be, you need to make sure that how you speak to them is a huge piece of the entire thing. We already talked about the fact that you listen to them. As a leader, listening to your employees is a huge part of that poor leadership. Do their opinions matter? Are you listening to their opinions? Do they get a say? These are the people that are on the front lines with your customers, and you need to sometimes listen to what it is that they have to say and not say, well, this is the way we've always done it. Okay, well, they're feeding you information based off of them being out in the field. Things are constantly changing, and you need to listen to that. Even if you're not going to implement what it is that they say, at least let them say it. Let them get it off their chest, say what it is that they think, and then if you've got a better way of doing it, explain why. There's nothing wrong with them saying, hey, I think we should do it this way. Listen to them, let them say why they think that way. It helps them grow in their thought process and say, you know what, that's great. I really love how you worked out that thought and how you came to that conclusion. Now, let me share something on the flip side, and maybe you have a solution to it. When we did this last time, here's what happened, blah, 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 blah. And they go, oh, okay, that makes sense why we don't do that. Sometimes all you got to do is let them say it, let them say what it is that they feel, and then you can explain why it hasn't worked in the past. Or maybe you guys can put your heads together and have an aha moment of going, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that's where the hiccup happened. Maybe if we did this, we can solve that. Oh wow, they helped you solve a problem of something you thought was a good idea at one point, obviously because you tried it. So listen to their opinions. They matter. Sometimes they're just looking at it from a different angle and you might get another idea. And then the last thing under poor leadership that I want to talk about has to do with being bossy versus the boss. You can be the boss and not be bossy. You don't have to be a jerk. You don't have to be somebody that just comes across really bossy and just, employees suck because they like to be treated well. We've talked about that. And I think that a lot of times people think that they have to be this bossy pants and just I don't know, lack of a better way of saying it, just a jerk to people. You don't need to be a jerk to people. People don't want to work for a jerk. If you've got crappy people working for you and employees that suck, the reason that they work for you is because, one, they need a paycheck. So it doesn't necessarily mean the problem may not be them. It may be you. And you need to ask yourself first, just like I said before, how are you failing them? Sometimes when our employees suck, it's our fault. And you need to ask yourself what it is that you're doing that's causing that type of environment. I really want to get you guys to the point where you see your employees more than just a necessary evil. I want you to see them as a team that you are leading. I want you to see them as an asset to your business, because really that's what it is, that your highest thing on your expenses are usually going to be your payroll. So you need to see them as an asset of you investing in your business, because these are the people that are going to help you take your business to that next level. These are the people that are this team is who's going to help you get to achieve all those business goals that you have. They're the front lines. They're talking to your customers day in and day out. And you, honest to God, you are the one that control if they suck or not. Because I'm telling you, that just drove me nuts when I heard the entire episode from that guy's podcast talk about how employees suck. Employees don't suck. They suck because we allow them to suck, or we hired the wrong people, or we created an environment that was bad for them, whatever the case may be. So I really want you to step back and ask yourself, are you sitting in a situation where you just feel that your employees suck? Because if you feel your employees suck, I feel sad for you. Because I feel sad for you, because it's something that I know weighs on you, and I know it brings you down, and it means that you're not doing the best that you can be in your particular business. And all I want to do is just grab you by your shoulders, shake you a little bit, and say, look, your employees do not have to suck. Listen to me. Your employees do not have to suck. There is a way out. There is a way to fix it. I want each and every one of you guys to have an environment in which you have an amazing, awesome team, and you control that. That is in your hands, 100%. An awesome team comes from a fantastic leader who knows how to build a team and give them the tools and resources they need to be successful. Every time I have a business owner that tells me and just says wonderful things about their employees, that tells me a lot about that leader, because it is that leader that is creating that environment. You can take any group of employees and you can call through them and get to the point where you have wonderful people. I want you guys all to have that. You just need to make sure that you are setting high standards, that you are setting clear expectations, that you're holding them to those expectations, that you're treating them like family, and you're giving them the tools and resources necessary for them to be successful. You're giving them the encouragement, the motivation, and everything that's possible to be able to have that. You need to treat them as you would your favorite piece of equipment, and how you baby it and you take care of it. Your employees need to be treated the exact same way. Listen, your employees are going to help you achieve your goals. They are wonderful. Just like that quote said, always treat your employees exactly as you would want them to treat your best customers. You need to take care of those employees. Those employees do not need to suck. And I don't want you to have a bunch of sucky employees. And if you have a bunch of sucky employees, step back, analyze, go through each one of them. What makes them suck, and what is the common denominator between all that? And I want you to look at that person in the mirror and ask yourself, what are you doing to lead to the environment that you've created that has a bunch of sucky employees? Because I want you guys to have a fantastic team behind you that is helping you achieve your goals, that is helping you be a wonderful asset in your community, one that people look up to. I want you to have a business that everybody and their mother wants to come work for, because your reputation is amazing. So, all right, sorry, this is one that he just got under my nerves when I heard that podcast episode, and I just knew I had to talk about it. So I appreciate you guys listening to me on this. So whether you have full-time employees, part-time employees, or people you just hire off the street, your employees do not have to suck. They really don't. And if you have a thought on this and you want to share it, feel free to send me a message at Tammy@localsmallbusinesscoach.com. I love hearing from you guys. I'm free. You know what? If you want to shoot me a message, I try to answer most people. If you've got a situation that you want to kind of just get bounce something off, I'll be glad to answer you, and just say, hey, have you ever thought about this? Whatever the case would be. But your employees don't have to suck. That's all I got to say. Your employees do not have to suck. By the way, my closing thing before I go is, can you guys do me a favor? I mean, I do this for free out of my love for you guys and my passion for you guys. All I ask is that if you know other small business owners that would benefit from listening to the show, that you grab their phone and you introduce them into the world of podcasts. I'm just one of many. There's a lot of us out there that are really trying to help you guys out there create wonderful businesses. So if you know somebody that is already listening listening to podcasts, so please see if you can have them add us to the show, to their list that they listen to. And if they never listen to podcasts, introduce them to the world of podcasts. I think that they would grow and get these nuggets and run with them. Just don't tell them to believe that all employees suck. All right, my dogs are going crazy because obviously someone's moving around, so that means I need to get out of here. I will talk to you guys on the next episode. Bye for now. Hey, badass, before you go, if your goal is to get your business up to a 6-figure take-home pay, I've got a tool that's going to help you out. If you head on over to localsmallbusinesscoach.com/8 steps or hit the link in the show notes, I've got a free ebook for you. And what I do is I walk you through the 8 steps that you need to take in order to be able to grow your business into a 6-figure income. Listen, you all have goals for your family, for your finances, and you need a roadmap on how to get there. So once again, there is a free ebook called The 8 Steps to $100,000 in Take-Home Pay. It's for yours. It's free. Just head on over to localsmallbusinesscoach.com/8 steps or click the link in the show notes and get yours for free.